Welcome, everybody. This is Dan King from BibleDude.net, and I'm online today with Romanita Hairston, and she's a VP of U.S. Programs for World Vision. So thank you, Romanita. How are you doing today?
Thanks, Dan, for having me. Doing okay. I'm a little bit tired, just getting back from Joplin yesterday, so still getting my bearings, but a little rested today, and so that's good.
Great, great. Thanks for taking the time to do this and chat with us. But so I know over the last several weeks, tornadoes really ripped apart communities throughout the South and the Midwest. And I know you say you just got back from Joplin yourself. And I've got some photos I'm going to share on screen here in a moment. But and we've all seen these kinds of images on TV. But what's the situation like on the ground right now in Alabama? And I know you said you just got back from Joplin. What's it like there right now?
Really, it's the three communities are definitely in different places. Having just come back from Joplin, what you first experience is it's overwhelming. I mean, it really is unimaginable, the level of destruction from that tornado. There's a lot of sadness because there's a lot of loss. In the midst of that, there's also a great degree of hope and resiliency. So it really is sort of two very different emotions and two very different experiences that you're having all in one time. You're taking in the great depth of what has happened, and at the same time extremely astonished at how that community is coming together and how the rest of the country is rallying around that community.
Yeah, that's interesting how sometimes, the worst devastation can bring about the best in people a lot of times as well, too. So it's cool that you notice both sides like that. What exactly is World Vision doing to help in those areas? And I know you guys work a lot through local churches and stuff like that, too. What's their role, the local church, playing in the relief efforts there?
So World Vision's role, we come in during the initial recovery phase and are doing assessment because our unique niche is really the long-term response and the rebuilding. So after people are sort of resettled and settled in, we're coming in at that initial phase, providing really essential supplies that help people return to normalcy. Hygiene kits, you haven't taken a bath because there wasn't hot water, or every 2,000 buildings are destroyed, and you just want to wash your hair. You want to clean yourself up. Clothing, water, tangible items that help people to begin that process of recovery. We also come in and start working with local partners, of which a primary partner is the church, to begin to assess needs, to support their efforts, and to begin to think about the long-term recovery plan and what that will look like. Two things that are really strategic in the question that you asked. World Vision is very focused on partnering with local churches to help make a difference. And you see churches from the region and from around the region where people have just jumped in their cars, got on the bus, who are showing up with water, with clothing, with just helping hands to remove debris, to do some case management, to walk alongside and pray with families. I mean, really, if you think about losing everything you'll need, you see people from other communities and churches who have just shown up and said, what can we do? And really people are willing to do whatever it takes. And in these very early days, there were efforts to continue to look for survivors. Their folks showed up and were helping people go through what is left of their homes, to recover items that are salvageable, to being there to help distribute goods. You really see the gamut.
Wow, that's amazing. And I know that people that want to help, they can help by texting the word tornado to 20222 to make a $10 donation. Or they can go online and make a donation at worldvision.org. But how else can people help in the relief efforts there? And I know that one of the questions that I got on Twitter from a follower there is that they may not be able to help financially. Well, what other ways might they be able to help out?
So I would say a couple of things. One is for people of faith who know that prayer works. Pray for the city of Joplin. Pray for the people who are going. If you know people who can help, encourage them to use the resources they've got, whether that's they can go down and help, or whether they're going to help. You may have someone who can go and they need somebody to watch their dog, or they need somebody to watch their kids. reach out to people around, tell the story. The recovery in Joplin, Tuscaloosa, and Alabama is going to be long-term, and World Vision is committed to standing beside those communities to not only help with the response, but to continue to help to tell the story, because we will need people to give deeply to help with this. And as you said, they can go to www.worldvision.org, or they can text Tornado to 20222 to help World Vision. But help those folks who can help, and help to tell the story. Pray for the people of Joplin and Tuscaloosa and Alabama. Prayer changes things, and we believe strongly.
Absolutely, too. I got to say, too, I love what you say about telling the story. And I know the question that became about how people can help if they can't help financially is somebody who I know is a blogger. So I think that's an important role that Christian bloggers can probably play in just continuing to reach out and tell the story and try to connect with people who are maybe doing the work there, stuff. So thank you for that. That's great. I know when there's a great devastation like this, there's always stories of hope that seem to kind of emerge out of them. What are you hearing that would give people hope that everything's going to work out okay in these places?
Mm-hmm. I'd say a really key thing was the president's visit was really encouraging to that city. It was encouraging because, one, it said, you're not alone. The rest of the country's with you. We have not forgotten. We recognize that this severe weather season has had great impact here. I think that was hopeful because it was not just the president, but it was the governor and it was the community leaders all coming together. And there are lots of things that can divide us, but here was a time when really as a country, you heard this statement of, we will not forget you, Joplin, and we'll be here for the long term, and we know it's long term. Other stories of hope, I sat in a church service on Sunday morning, and there was a time, really, that was a healing time for the congregation to share, and you heard people saying, this will not defeat us. You heard stories of great faith, and I will tell you, one of my biggest reflections being there is I am amazed at the number of people who survived. When you look at the devastation, literally everything in the path of that tornado was destroyed, but so many human lives were spared. It to me is a miracle that so many lives were spared. And you heard people saying, with God's help, we're going to make it. You heard people saying, yeah, I've lost my house, I've lost my business, but my family is alive and we're together. And so there was this great sense of hope. And as people told tearful stories of what they went through, you heard people talking about how I would have been in my house had this not happened, or I felt strongly to do this. And, when I went to that place, I'm alive. A woman who her house was completely destroyed, but who literally one of the congregation members was testifying that she felt compelled by the Lord to go visit the hospital, and it saved her life. Wow. A young man who someone was encouraging him to drive, and something told him to stop, and then literally a car fell right in front of them. People saying their whole house is leveled, but they went to this one corner of the house, and it was the only thing left standing. And literally, you drive into these neighborhoods, and you would see literally the door frame or the corner of the house where, folks were standing. And so you just heard a lot of gratefulness, a lot of this sense that, God helped us through this, and God's going to continue to help us to make it forward. And just the strength of the community and the resiliency of people in the midst of that is inspiring. I think one of the best quotes was, we have to live up to the example of people who did very heroic things in the midst of this. And I think it's a very true statement.
Yeah, absolutely. Amen. In a personal study that I've been doing reminds me of something that you just said too. When we think of big devastating storms and disasters like this, we can't always explain why they happen. But God in all his sovereignty can use this to bring good things out of it and stuff. So when you hear testimonies of faith like that, people hearing from the Lord and coming through okay, that's really encouraging. It's good to see God at work in the worst of times like that too. So.
Absolutely. And I don't claim to be, a theologian, but I heard someone say, we don't control how these things happen. But what's really clear is one of the biggest acts of God is just like he gave us free will, nature kind of acts too. But the grace of God is that he shows up in the midst of it. He shows up during it, and he's there with us afterwards. And really what the faith community is doing in Joplin is showing up as God's hands and feet to demonstrate his love, that, and to help to raise that voice that God was there when it happened, and he was sparing lives and saving people, and the Spirit of the Lord was intervening, and that's going to continue as Joplin moves forward. And so it was very, very encouraging and inspiring to see the hope and the people going, this is going to make us stronger as a community. Certainly, it's going to be a long period of rebuilding, but World Vision is there, and we're going to be standing beside Joplin with many other organizations and our partners to help with that. And so it won't be easy, but it can happen.
Amen. Amen. Well, thank you very much for the work that you guys are doing, and I know that myself and several others who will be watching this will continue to pray for you and in the work that you guys are doing in that area. So awesome. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, and thank you for telling the story and helping to get the message out there. We appreciate it.
Thank you.